All right, so I had to take a little break from the S14. I got everything all cleaned out and cleaned up, but I had the Grip Royal guys and Sasha from Yankee Special come up to do No Star Bash. So they were here for about 4 or 5 days. It's a 4-day drift event. As you can tell, I've lost my voice. We had a freaking blast, man. It was an insane time. But I have less than 2 weeks to get the S14 ready for the track. And by track, I mean the mountains of Drift Appalachia. I still have to get this cage in, which I've just laid on the floor. I have the CageKit that will be the non-gutted doors. It's a pretty damn good kit because I don't have to worry so much about doing everything perfectly. This is already perfect. It's laser etched. It's so nice to install. And normally I would love to do a tutorial on how to do this and how to put everything in, but I am so pressed for time, I don't think I'll be able to do that. And I still have to do the rear suspension, which broke last time, and then rewire the car and make sure the tune is correct. So I'll have to align everything and make sure and test all of the wiring connections, make sure my fans are working, all of those things within 2 weeks. And I honestly think it's less than that. It might even be just over a week. So I have a ton to do, and I'm gonna try and jam through this as quick as I can. But also being mindful that this has to be installed really well and it's for my safety. So yeah, I'm always impressed with the CageKits, man. I've got it laid out a little bit, you know, just to get the idea. They send you a sheet that has all of the part numbers on it. Everything is laser etched, so you can see what each part is, and you have a little log to check everything out. And that is really helpful in knowing where everything's gonna be, but it still doesn't have much of an instruction. So you kind of have to play with it and figure some things out. And then depending on your car too, you know, there's other hiccups you're gonna have to get in the way. There might be metal brackets you gotta cut out. I think this has a different revision from what I did last time on the Way of the South. So I don't think I have to cut the front bars to drop the whole thing down to weld it. I think I could probably just scoot it forward a little bit and be able to weld those tops thoroughly with no gaps or anything like that. So got to make sure your 360-degree weld is really good. And yeah, I want to be safe. I want to do it correctly. And I want to make it look good. I'm going to try and TIG weld everything. I know it takes a lot longer, but I've always wanted this car to be the TIG welded car, the one that I put a little bit more time and effort into, even though I have so much going on. I'm gonna make a good attempt at it. If I feel like I'm behind, I might have to just go blast over it with the MIG. But I'm gonna try everything with a TIG first, and I'm pretty darn fast at welding with a TIG, so I think I should be able to do it. Okay, so while I was drifting for a few days, I did get something new. I ordered this a while ago. It's a company I've worked with in the past, and I love their stuff. Connected with them again, and finally got myself a new notcher. So a JD Squared RV3, and this is a bad boy. I have gone through multiple different notchers, and they become annoying to me sometimes. They either don't work great, and you're just kind of messing around with it all the time. It's hard to adjust quickly. This thing is super stout, and I'm able to adjust it very easily. So I immediately have something I have to notch. You have the CageKit, which isn't normally everything is laser etched and stuff, but if you're me, they give you an option, because I'm short, to lower the bars, and it's pre-notched, so it's on here already. And you can see that that would be where we need to notch in order for me to fit. And I have this new notcher, which is awesome. First notch, top notch. Look at that for a first notch. I didn't pay too much attention to get that close. I just really threw it in there and eyeballed it. But if you can see, there's a little line here. That's where the notch would follow. Look at that. Pretty much nailed that. The only thing left over is this little piece here, and that's because I didn't really fine tune and adjust that thing. I just took a first guess as to what I do. And using new equipment, you always gotta kind of play with some things, but I'm really happy with that. All I gotta do is barely grind that off. So next time, I'll take a little bit more time to put that in there correctly, and it'll be a perfect notch that I won't even have to do anything. So very cool. Finally have a really good notcher. I can finally start making metal stuff again in my own house. I'm really pumped for this. So, all right, let's get back to work. Got a whole lot to do. So this is my main hoop, and you can see you got the diagonals and then portion of the harness bar. It was sent with 2 of the harness bars for a tall and a short person. So for the short one, had to be modified. That's why you can see that mark there, where I cut that right on there with the tube notcher. And you can see that there's a mark right, well, it's very faint on camera, but there's a mark right here. It's about a little egg shaped, and this will fit right in there. Bang. Dead on the money. So I'll mock this up first. I just kind of put everything together on the floor. So this main hoop, the diagonals, and the harness bar, I like to get tacked in place first, just to kind of have it as one piece. And then I'll do the same with the rear bar, for the drop bar, those diagonals. I'll probably tack all those in place and then mock them up inside the car, see how everything fits, get a couple tacks on that, and then I'll pretty much finish weld those things outside of the car. It just makes it a lot easier. Then I don't have to crawl back there and do all this. The only fear is that if you weld too hot or give it some room, it'll have some deflection to it, and then you'll be off by quite a lot. But I've done this before on the last CageKit that I installed, and it worked out pretty dang well. And since I don't have much time, that's what I think I'm going to do again. I also like to be able to see those welds, and since I'm going to TIG weld everything, it makes it a lot nicer. Oh yeah, look at nice. Oh, this is gonna be a fucking mess, isn't it? So there's a bunch of joints that come together and overlap, and I like to weld underneath them, kind of in an order. Sometimes you can get away with just kind of welding all the joints at once, but I weld all the joints underneath so I feel safe. And then this will be covered up by this bar that's where I'm at right now, and then I'll weld all around that as well. So I like to weld at least the bits that are covered first before I weld everything up. So I'll get that in, then I'll tack up the next, and do whatever's going to be overlapped. So mock it up, make sure everything's in the right spot. Same thing will happen here with this X brace. Just kind of tack everything up, make sure it fits, and then do the spot which will be covered first, and then weld the cap over that. So it's a lot to go. Whole lot of welding. I'm already tired and sweaty, and but I'm hitting a groove. We'll be good here. Okay, I've made it pretty far on my mock-up, and I don't know, I'm happy with it. So far, so good. I had to adjust just a couple little things. I'm just like a little bit off of the laser marks, just to line things up. I think I had the rear drop bars a little too far apart, so it moved the X up just a little bit, but it still looks good, and everything's even. The rear drop pads are welded. These mid pads are welded. I've left these just tacked in place. I think they're gonna have to move forward a little bit. And just tacked on the bottom here. So some stuff is welded up in the joints. But eventually, once I get the A-pillar bars in, I'm gonna cut these tacks and move this forward so I can weld the top joints, because right now it's butted in there real tough and I wouldn't be able to get to that and or the door bars. So I may have to bend that or cut that in to get to the door bar to weld that better. But yeah, looking all right. I'm gonna save the harness bar for last so I can get back in there and weld things. Now I'm gonna start moving forward to the A-pillar bars and dash bar and door bars, make sure everything lines up, get it kind of tacked in place, and then we'll see where to go from there. I apologize for the fan noise. I got to keep it going because I got to keep the fumes out of here, and it's pretty hot. But I'm in a decent spot. I have the A-pillar bars in, and then the connection for the top hoop. So it's looking pretty dang good. I have them tack this top bar and then start tacking in the door bars so I can move it forward. But I'm gonna wait on the dash bar because it pushes it so tight I won't be able to move it anywhere. So I will need to move it and drop this down. So I have one tack in this pad. I'm gonna cut that tack, pull these out. That should drop the cage down. And when it drops down, I should be able to move it forward, and I can weld the tops of these joints here. Yeah, I'm gonna keep rocking and rolling, see if I can smash this out and get it at least all mocked up where I want to today and start some welding. I won't have it all welded today, I don't think, but I'm gonna make a really good attempt at it. All right, I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty frustrated with welding, so I'm gonna take a break for the day. I'm also almost out of gas, so I gotta go run to the welding shop in the morning and get some gas. But for me, it's almost an hour away, so I'm gonna lose 2 hours. I'm gonna go first thing, get another bottle, and then continue. So I've gotten pretty far. I've got a lot of these joints welded, at least half welded in difficult spots. Got the A-pillar bars in there and just tacked up for now. So once I'm done here with the back, I'll start to move forward, and I feel like I'm in a pretty decent position now, but I would say I'm about halfway there. Not too bad in one day, I'm about halfway. It's a lot of welding. Now I kind of regret taking it. I should have made it. I'm out of practice for sure, so it's taking me a lot longer. And I'm not very happy with a lot of the welds, so I might have to go over a few double pass. But, you know, I think it's just me being a perfectionist. Anyway, I'm done for the night. Now I gotta go edit. Okay, back at it. I had a bit of a late start because I had to go run and get some more gas because I was fairly confident I was gonna run out today. So I'm gonna run that bottle the rest of the way out. At least I have more gas. I was hoping that the welding store had a set of goggles or something that's easier for me to get back there. Because I do have all the glass in the car, I really have to get into some some really tight spots to weld, and it's very difficult to see. My torch also is a little bit bulky and it's not very flexible. So some of the stuff I've been used to at Hoonigan and at RTR, which is having a nice flexible head or air-cooled torch and stuff like that, makes it a little bit easier, and I don't have those things, so I'm kind of struggling a bit. Also with the corded pedal, I know Miller has the cordless pedal, which I'm really hoping I get in the future, because right now I'm struggling to fight all the cords and stuff inside the car. Also, the lead to the torch, it's not flexible at all either, so kind of fighting the resistance on the TIG torch, and that's pretty difficult when you're trying to be really precise in a very tight spot. A couple little things I'm battling. I have to get through it, so I've just done myself to get comfortable and just try and work around it. So the hood being too far out, the torch not being as flexible as I want, and the glass in the car, the full interior stuff. So I'll figure it out. I've done it multiple times in the past, but typically I build my own cage, and I can do it around some things. I kind of screwed myself as putting in the X bars first. I didn't want anything in the back to move. I think in the future, if I was to do this, I would weld all of the outer bars. I'd weld the main hoop and the drop bars and get it tacked in place and remove the X's. And then I would do the A-pillar bars, the dash bar, stuff like that in the future, just because it's a little easier to get to everything. But I kind of know better than that. I just went into the mindset of like race car without glass, but having the glass in the car makes it a lot more difficult to navigate. So try my best, and I have to get this sucker done like pretty much today. If I don't have it done by tomorrow, then I'm in real shit shape for doing the suspension wiring and everything like that. I don't really think I'm in too bad of a spot as far as welding this cage in, but I'd like to have more time to diagnose and fix the wiring if I need to. Okay, so I'm kind of welded to the point where I'm happy with how everything is. I don't think anything will move when I cut it free. So I even got down to where the A-pillar brace is and stuff like that. And then most of these joints behind here are all welded, at least underneath. And then this big mangled joint up here is pretty much all welded on both sides until I get to the top. So I got some little tacks in place that I'm going to cut free, and then so you can see here's a little one, just a little tack right there, and it's stayed true. Just a little tack in each little space. So I'm going to cut those plates out. It's just a tack on that as well, and then it should drop down, and I should be able to drop this forward off this shelf and weld the tops. Once that's done and welded, which should take me a little bit, it's not easy, especially with the front glass here. I won't really have space for my head to get in there. It'll take a little while, but I'll put it back and then finish up with the door bars and the dash bar, and then the final thing will be the anti-intrusion bars. So yeah, moving right along. So about 2 p.m. hopefully have this done this evening, or at least 90% done, so I can finish it up tomorrow and then start putting the car back together. That might be all I get. So now you can see my access. It's not much, but it's able to get the tops, right? So I got some room. Now. Should be easy to weld. It's still a bitch, but it's better than nothing. It'd be a lot nicer if the front glass was out. I could definitely get to these quite a bit better, but that's okay. I could do it. I've been doing it. So let's weld this up and put it back in place. Okay, everything is welded. I got to the tops of everything pretty much finished welded. So what I got to do now is put it back up. But you can see, yeah, I had to weld through basically my arms through the glass, and I barely had any room here. But yeah, it's all welded up. Now I have to bring this up on top of the plates, and hopefully nothing shifted and everything fits exactly where it was. I know sometimes it moves around with all the heat. I tried to be conscious of that when I was welding so it wouldn't pull to one side or the other. It's always gonna move, man. It's just a lot of heat. So hopefully I can get that back in place and then put these pads back where they should land, and then start on the door bars. The door bars are gonna fit really tight as well. You can see I cut a little spot for access. I marked that before I moved the cage forward just so I would know where the door bars land. I know I need a little bit of space to get behind there so I can see. So I cut that out just to give me a little bit more access on the top door bar. The bottom one should have enough room, so not too bad. I'm gonna put this guy back in place and see how it fits. It's good, and it didn't move. Oh, I knew there was a reason I did all that in place, because it was a real big pain in the ass to weld all that. But at least none of the points moved. All of the tacks line up exactly where they were. So that is good news. It was a really big pain in the ass to weld all that in place. So you can see there's one of the tacks I cut. It's right on there. There's the other tack I cut right on there. Forgive my shitty MIG welds, but it'll work. It's not going anywhere. So I MIG'd the plates, but I TIG'd everything else. It lines up. I'm happy. Okay, so I put the cage up back where it was. The tacks were right dead on, so it didn't move. I welded it to the base plates, so it hasn't moved that much. And I had to jack this sucker up to get these plates back on, and they're gonna take a little bit of convincing, let's say, which generally when you put door bars in, it takes a little convincing to get that sandwiched in there. So usually what I do is I will put the door bars somewhat in place and then use a ratchet strap and pull it tight so it'll hold it in place, and then you can tack to the bottom pads on the floor and then get to working all around. However, it's been kind of a pain because it's been a gnarly storm. Obviously there's a hurricane coming through Florida and stuff like that, but it has reached up to us now, so the weather is pretty nasty and the power keeps going in and out a little bit. So when you're welding and stuff, that's kind of a pain in the ass. So I've had it die on me a few times. It's getting frustrating. It's really nasty out there, so. Yeah, it keeps blowing my car cover off. I gotta go fix that. No matter what I do, it's so windy I can't keep the car cover on the Miata, but I'll go fix that and then back to welding. Hopefully I don't have any issues with the power going out, because then I'd be screwed. Put some brakes and tires on the Miata because the tarp keeps blowing away. It's really gnarly weather out there. But I also got the door bar mocked up on one side. Basically just a couple tacks of where it should be. And then I'm going to do the other side and give a line of sight, make sure everything's lined up. It's already like laser etched and everything, so it should be perfect. But I'll just take a look down it. Getting pretty tired, but I'm there. Keep on rocking. Okay, so I got the cage all welded up, and good timing because I did run out of gas on my bottle. It's the weekend, I can't get more welding gas, so I'm happy that that's all done. There's a couple things that I'm gonna have to wait on, like the anti-intrusion bars. Maybe I can put those in Monday, but if not, I'll get to that when we get back from this event. I definitely will be putting those in, but I have a lot more going on today as the event is closing in on me. I think I have a couple days left before I'd like to go test it before I get out on the mountain, but it's been raining like crazy here. So one thing I got to do today is locate the steering and make something off of the new dash bar to hold the stock steering. So I do have some left in the MIG tank. I can still mock it up and get everything. I would like to have that TIG welded because I TIGged the whole cage and I want it to look nice. So I might just tack it in place and make sure everything works. And then Monday, when I can go get a new bottle, I will probably TIG the rest of it. The other thing I need to do is, this was now in the way of where the battery box is mounted. So I'm gonna have to make a new battery box mount. And then I'm going to start putting in the wiring, which I've had major issues with. I'm gonna try and clean it up a little bit and diagnose what's going wrong. So that's kind of my main fear, as I'm not very good at wiring. And I get a little too meticulous with things. So once I find something and I get frustrated, I start taking stuff apart and go further and deeper into it. I'm just gonna try and get it to work for this event. And then when I'm done, I'm going to make it really nice. I'd love to redo all of this. So trying to get everything back together today, and then I have the suspension stuff to do probably tomorrow. I'll put on the new CageKit rear knuckles, realign the car, make sure everything's nut and bolt checked really well, and then do an oil change, and I should be good to go. But with only a couple days left, it's kind of a lot of work. And then I got a new Hans device, harnesses and stuff that I need to fit up as well, make sure everything works. But yeah, a lot of work, couple days. So here's a simple tip that I'd mentioned before. If you're going to take your steering out for any reason and you have a good alignment already and you don't want to redo it, definitely make a line, which I did right here. You can see I made that line on the steering shaft and then also the knuckle which receives it. So hopefully if I have the wheels straight enough and I line this sucker back up, everything should be exactly where it was. The wheel should be straight. So that'll prevent me from having to chase alignment issues and stuff like that. So I'm gonna shove this thing back in, see if it all lines up. Then I gotta put my seat in, and then I'm gonna find out where I want the steering. And like I said, I'm pretty particular about it. So I'll sit in there for quite a while, use some different clamps, move it around, make sure it's where I like it. And then I got a couple little things of some strap steel I'm gonna make a mount out of. I also have some leftover tubing from the CageKit because it comes with a different harness bar for different heights. So I can use that as well. So I might end up using that on the dash bar itself and then making a plate to hold these 2 points right here. So making a pickup for these, which will make it strong, sturdy. Definitely don't want that moving or flexing in any way. We want it strong enough. So we'll see how that works. Get started on it. Hopefully it doesn't take me too long, as I still have a lot to do. Just about correct. Okay, I got the steering dialed in to where I like it. It's welded, and that was definitely the last weld on this tank. You can see she gone. So it was starting to gray up on me a little bit, and I knew it was on its last leg, but that will be the last TIG weld that I do until Monday, and I can get some more gas. But I'm pretty happy with where the steering is. Oh, see, it's dead straight on there. Okay, remember what I said about aligning everything for the steering? Well, that was actually backwards anyway when I actually inspected it. There's a little slot for the bolt to go through. That was upside down. I don't know when that happened. I know that I had some help changing out a rack, so I think that's when that happened, but I definitely would not have done that. Thank God I caught it, because I don't want my steering to go out. So I fixed that. I had to cut some new grooves in it and make sure that everything was good, put a new bolt in it. So the steering's good, but I'm gonna have to realign the front. Really, I got it pretty well lined up anyway, so I just gotta clock the steering wheel. That's about it. Moving on, I need to probably do the battery box next, and then start putting this wiring back together. So I'm gonna get a battery box in a good spot, and then I'll work on putting all the wiring stuff back together, make sure it starts, runs, and then I can diagnose from there. So I'm a little bit worried because I did take out a lot that I saw being a problem, and I was thinking I was gonna have this fixed with somebody else, but unfortunately they had to bail out, and now it's on me. So I'll figure it out hopefully today. So I stalled out yesterday because I needed to get some tools. So I needed a new torch for some soldering and some better wire crimpers. So I got some stuff from Harbor Freight, and it worked out kind of well. So you could see what the problem was like these guys fried up my relays. So there's a bunch of relays setting in a row here, and a couple of them got fried due to the weather at Drift Appalachia. So I think that got super wet, and I didn't really notice it, and there was just sitting water in there, and it arced and screwed those things up. But I traced it down to basically right here, so it's not going to be a big issue. It's nothing up the line. I looked at everything, so I did my best to just try and get around this for now. I would love to redo all this later, maybe do a PDM instead, but for now this is going to get me out there. It's ready to go, so I'm going to put this back on the board, and then once I get that board in, I still have a couple issues here. So this chafing, so I'm going to lop that off, put a new lug on. I've relocated the battery to a better spot. It was sitting here, but the cage was in the way, so I put that right in the center. It's welded in there for now. If I want to change that, which I do, I'll cut it out. I don't really need the bracketry that it's sitting on, but you can see some of the wiring that was done at the track. I mean, there's just stuff laid out everywhere from little add-ons that we had at the track to make some things work. And this was a fan remedy that we did at Grid Life that needs to be fixed. So I'm going to trace this forward. I think this was the culprit in blowing out a couple fuses. I think it got melted further up the line towards the fans, so I'm going to replace those. But first of all, I'm going to run these battery cables, make sure that they run fine, and then put the circuit board in. You can see I have kind of some bulkheads going through the firewall, and then I had the massive kill switch over here. I'm probably going to reorganize that just because it's been bugging me. I would love to spend a lot more time at this and make everything really well laid out. I'm going to do the best that I can, as it hasn't been good to begin with. So I'm going to fix what I can, lay everything out, test it, and make sure everything works great. My main two problems were the fans and the fuel pump cutting out, and both of those are bad for a JZ engine. Definitely don't want the fuel pump to cut out, because then you're out power, you could understeer, you could fly off track. Don't want the fans to go out because I could overheat and spray water and shit everywhere. Didn't want that, so hopefully I don't have to battle any of those things anymore, and this fixed it. So if I did fix it, fantastic. If I fire it up, it works great, then I'll move on to the suspension, which will be the last thing, because I'm pretty confident in that. It's fairly easy to do. So if I run out of time, that's something I can do in a parking lot, at the track, whatever. So I should be ready to go. Let's do some more wiring. Well, the shop is kind of a wreck, but I've been thrashing, and I got some of the wiring stuff, most of the wiring stuff all done. So it's a bit cleaner than it was before. There's still some unnecessary stuff. I need to make a couple mounts for the fuse box and the ECU, and then a couple better things for this. I also need to make a mount for the IC7 dash to put up here, as I won't have anything. I don't have time to fit the whole dashboard and make tabs and stuff like that. So for this, I'm just going to mount everything securely and make sure that nothing's flopping around. There's no exposed wires. I think I've done a pretty good job of that. The car did fire up, so I did my job correctly. I'm happy with it. I think it should be solid compared to what I had last time, and I won't have any fueling issues or fan issues. So happy with that. I'm gonna tidy that up in a little bit, but I have moved on to the suspension. I'm sorry, my GoPro did die. I have it on the charge right now, but I've taken apart the rear suspension, and what I had said before, I did break the rear knuckle. Or at the last Drift Appalachia, it had a very tough rumble strip, and it was really hard on the rear knuckle, and I'll show you what I did to fix it. Yeah, not the greatest, but I'll take it. It got me on the trailer, it got me home. So I'm replacing this rear knuckle with the CageKit rear knuckle. So gonna do both of them as it changes some of the geometry. So hopefully it's not too far off in the alignment. Some of these arms have been seized up over the years, and I don't really want to fight with it. So I'm gonna get this together, put it on the ground, and then I will check the alignment. Hopefully it's pretty close to what I have. If not, I can make some adjustments. I also got some new tie rods as well, just more of a backup thing, but I'm going to realign pretty much the entire car to make sure that everything is perfectly straight and true. I don't want to put in all this work and go out there and drive a crappy car. So I've got some other things too. I got the spark plugs and oil change and all that stuff ready to go. So it's going to be a pretty big thrash day. I got to leave not tomorrow, but the next day. So it's pretty much my last day to get everything together. I'd love to go testing tomorrow at KillCare and make sure everything is running great before I head out of here. And then I got some small cosmetic stuff that happened at the last event as well. So once this knuckle did break too, when this knuckle broke, it pushed the wheel forward and it caught this lip, pulled it out, and it gouged one of my tires that was pretty much brand new. So I might have to head over to B-Wag shop and get some new tires as well, as I don't have too many spares. So this came up on me pretty dang quick, and I didn't get time to order tires. Darn it. But back at working. I will be jamming on this, try and get that back together. It should be pretty simple, and hopefully nothing else is wrong. Okay, so I've had quite the battle so far, and that's because my arms have not been adjusted for quite a while. I think a few events, just nut and bolt checked, but they need to be reconditioned. They've been used over the years, and they just need to be cleaned up. So I've kind of gone through and cleaned up some of the arms. It's boring, you don't want to watch it. But I've gone through and zeroed them all out and then brought them back to where they should be. This kit does change the suspension geometry a bit, so I definitely had to change the camber. I know I'm gonna have to change the toe, and we'll see. Like, I won't really know until I get it on the ground, because I don't really have a good way to measure everything. But I do have to recondition the control arms, because these are the ISR arms that I had before on my old S14, but I sold them with my old S14, and these are what Will had on there, and they've been adjusted wrong. So these jam nuts are all locked in here. This jam nut is supposed to be here. This one is definitely supposed to be on this one, but this is supposed to block this, and you can see right now that that will still rotate freely. So this jam nut will be on here, but these are seized together, and I wasn't able to get them off even with like proper equipment. I wasn't able to get them off, but I've let them soak for quite a while. I got the other one working, so I'm gonna do this one, bottom it all the way out, and then ease it back out. So negative all the way, just to put everything in, and then I'm going to adjust it correctly to get the arm where I want it to be and have a base for each thing. So each arm will be set basically where they're all the same and everything's relaxed. And then once I get it on the ground, I can adjust from there and see how everything needs to be for the alignment that I want, which I don't run too much in the way of anything being aggressive. So I'll probably only end up running like an 1/8 in of toe, and then everything else I stay fairly neutral. I'll bring the camber as close to about 0 as I can. I'll see how it fits now that everything's changed. I'll see how the wheel fits. If I do, I'll probably go about 0. If not, maybe just a little bit more on the positive side. So we'll see. It does have quite a soft rear, so it will squat quite a bit. I'm curious to see how the camber gain is on these new rear knuckles, but first of all, I gotta fix this thing and get it back in. I do have the arms in place, but going through and fixing all this is kind of a timely, boring job. So today is the day. It's the last day I have to work on this thing. I've gotten pretty far. I don't have too much left to the list. I got the CageKit rears on yesterday, and to my surprise, it did change it quite a bit. So I had to adjust every single arm, and also the ride height. Like it lowered it quite a bit. So I raised it almost 1.5 inches in the rear, and it's still, when it's all the way loaded, it's still gonna be kind of close to the fenders, and blasting those out. So I still have a little bit of toe adjustment and stuff to do. I got all of the arms set pretty neutral, which right now it's still more aggressive than I would ever run. So I'm gonna have to do a bit more to the alignment and get this thing on a test drive to see how it feels. But I just wanna make sure that all the clearance is good and I'm not blasting off my overs and all that stuff. But I'm running a bigger tire than I usually run. I have a 275 on there right now, and I typically run a 265. So it's kind of the wrong setup for me to set up my alignment as far as what everything looks like aesthetically. But if I can get this to clear and clear well, and then work, then I can run a 275 more often. I don't plan to, because it's a little too much grip for me, and now it's in a more aggressive alignment. So trying to get that dialed in, and then everything else seems to be good. I got new spark plugs in it. They're gapped, they're ready to go. I tidied up a lot of the wiring, made sure the fans and fuel work, got it to run, cleaned out the air filter. I just oiled it down so it's ready to be put back in. And then I put some new fuel in the car, because can't be leaving E85 sitting for too long. So I put some new fuel in to get a a good feel for how it pulls and make sure that I have no problems before I leave. But I have a few little bitty things I need to do, like I still need to make something to hold the IC7 dash. I didn't have the correct hardware, so I'm gonna have to go run up to the hardware store real quick, get the correct hardware, and then make a mount for that, and then tidy up some loose ends, put the seats back in, and then I have just cosmetic stuff. So the bumper got bashed last time on the tow truck, and then when I broke my arm, I knocked off one of my side skirts and chewed up a tire, so I gotta get some new tires mounted. So just overall, not too much. I just have to get everything figured out, test driven, washed up, and I feel pretty good about it. All right, dash is mounted. I tidied up some of the wiring stuff. I got the seat in, so pretty stoked with that. It's right in a good sight for me. So everything is pretty much ready to go. I'm gonna fire it up, let it warm up for a second, and move it into a better position because I wanna do the alignment. So I have it as a good base, but I wanna dial it in, make sure everything's good, and then I can go for a test drive and see how everything is. So I'll run over a little bit of what I do for alignment. First thing is get it on some really level ground. I just cleaned up that side of the shop. So cleaned up, get it level, get the wheels straight. I need to move the steering as it was on incorrectly. So I need to relocate my steering wheel first and get that stuff set up. And then I'm gonna make some grease plates. I'll show you. It's gonna be weird. All right, like I said, I was gonna make some grease plates, and I live very far away from everything. There's not much close to me, so I went to a store and found the closest thing I could, which were these for sale signs. They're smooth. I bought 2 of them. You cut them in half, so I'll have 2 of them, and we'll put some grease in between it, and it should slide to free up all the suspension when I'm doing the alignment. So this is just what I could get today. This is the last day, so I have to get this done. So just quickly make some grease plates. It should suffice for what I have today, and get everything close enough. So here we go. I don't know where my knife is. Somehow I lost it today, so scissors are gonna have to do. All right, just like that, pretty simple. And then I'll put some grease. You can use high pressure lube, you can use dish soap, whatever. Just use enough to make it pretty slippery. And what we want is this to be able to slide around. So this will fit under the wheel. You jack up the back of the car, the front of the car, whichever you're working on, and put these down. When the tire comes down, it will be able to be free and all the arms can be moved, and it'll act like it's in movement rather than the tire getting stuck and it's stuck in one fixed position. Now we can move it around, and it makes it easier for adjustments as well. So you can adjust your toe and camber, things like that, and it'll slide with it, and it won't be so difficult to adjust everything. Dish soap, just a little bit. Dish soap you can clean up, wipe it off. If you get it on the tires, it's not a big deal, but don't need too much. Just about like that. Lay this sucker flat. Move it around a little bit. So now when you put pressure on it, it should be pretty simple to move around. And we got ourselves a makeshift grease plate. You can use metal, you can use Lexan. I mean, that's typically what I would like to use, is Lexan, something like that that you can see. You definitely want to make sure that it's clean, and you want them all to be the same thickness. So just a couple of quick tips that will help you with an alignment if you're doing it at home. Find the most level surface you have. For me, it's this point of the garage. Clean it up very nicely. You don't want anything on the floor. Loosen up all your arms that you intend to make adjustments with. Make sure that everything's pretty neutral and that they're all adjusted the same. And then I made these makeshift grease plates, which will definitely help in adjusting everything and freeing everything up. Whatever. I'm just gonna drop this car. You'll see. So as you can see, the grease plate's moved quite a bit, so it does work. I'm gonna get a baseline, see what my toe is. I don't really have a camber gauge. I use a level and kind of take a guess. It's fairly close to 0 right now. I want to get it as close to 0 as possible. So on my level, if it's in the straight up spot, it'll be pretty good. If it's off just a little bit, no big deal. I'll try and make it match. The other thing is try and check my toe, but it's just me, so I'll have to pull those tape measures really tight. All right, let's see what we got. Make sure these bad boys are even. '71 3/4. Hopefully I'm not rocking over there, but right now I'm pretty much at 0. So if I wanted to make a small adjustment, I would just make an adjustment in. I typically run about 1/8 to 1/4 inch in. So maybe just one twist of the toe rods and she'll be dead set, but I'm actually not mad with that right now. I might just drive it and see how it feels. I may go up with the ride height a little bit, but right now I'm set pretty close to where I'd like to be. If anything, I'm just about 1/8 in. So, pretty dang good for a guess. So I'm happy with that. I'm gonna raise this thing up just a touch. I think it might be a little too low. I'm already almost into the fender, so I'm gonna raise it just a little bit more and then check the toe again and go for a test drive. Remember, these arms are adjustable and you want to be able to adjust them, so don't tighten them too tight that you can't get it off and make adjustments. All right, so I got it on the ground. The alignment was great. I went for a test drive. I didn't film it for reasons. It drove fantastic. It's better than it was before, I believe. So I feel really good about it and I'm happy. I cleaned it up too. So it looks nice, ready to go. So I got too much to do. I still got to load up. I got to organize stuff. I got to mount tires. I have a bunch to do. So let's see how it does at the track, and hopefully everything goes well. And I'll give you an update after that. You'll see what we did at the mountain. Bye.